Well, it's 6 o'clock, and so I'm going to call this Lacey City Council meeting on April 6, 2023 to order. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At the end of this meeting, we're going to be adjourning into an executive session. So it'd be my recommendation that we actually move our boards, commission, and committee reports to our next meeting. With that, can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I would move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Then that motion unanimously carries. We have approved our amended agenda. So first up on our amended agenda is public comment. We didn't see anyone sign up for public comment, but if there's anyone wishing to address this council, seeing none, then let's go on to proclamations. As many of you know, the city of Lacey is one of the first communities in Washington to be designated a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation. This evening, we celebrate our 32nd consecutive year to receive this award. Since first earning the award in the early 1990s, Lacey has invested nearly $7.5 million on tree planting and care and distributed over 32,000 free tree seedlings to community members. We've also invested in our tree canopy and public spaces as well. We're extremely proud that Lacey features more than 6,000 formal street trees along our roadways, and we're equally as proud that our community maintains more than 1,200 acres of parkland and open space, creating one of the largest municipal park systems on the South Puget Sound, much of it permanently preserving large areas of forested land for us and future generations to enjoy. In recognition of these urban forestry accomplishments and the importance of trees in our community, I'd like to read the following proclamation.
Whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and
whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and
whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and
Supposed to be. Go ahead and skip. Go into it.
Whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And
whereas trees in our cities increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community.
Now, therefore, I, Andy Ryder, Mayor of the City of Lacey, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Arbor Month in the City of Lacey. And I encourage all community members to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to plant trees to provide beautification for future generations to enjoy. Signed by myself, Mayor Andy Ryder, on this April 6, 2023. Now, we also have a long tradition of exchanging a special arbor tree with the City of Yelm. And Mayor DePoto, would you like to come forward? Okay. So Mayor DePoto, on behalf of the community members of the City of Lacey, it is a pleasure to present you with this Japanese tree lilac in honor of Arbor Day. And while modest in size now, this tree will grow to between 15 and 30 feet tall and with vivid green leaves and white blossoms in late spring. We hope it will bring beauty to your community and for many years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ryder. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. Mayor Joe DePeno here from City of Yelm, and thank you. I thought it was pretty cool how you each read one whereas, and it ended up on Mayor Ryder. I thought that was kind of nifty. I don't know if you did it on purpose.
No, we do that. We do that with all of our proclamations, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So,
Every time.
Yeah, that's pretty nifty. And we'll try to, well, we do have a long-standing history of exchanging trees. It's a wonderful tradition. I'm glad to keep it going, and look forward to, hopefully we got yours all delivered.
Yep.
And yeah, looking forward to,
There it is. Look
holy
how big a
smokes,
tree.
didn't realize
It
it's
wasn't
that
a
big.
competition on who has the biggest tree, I
I
swear.
guess so. Next year we'll try to go a little bit bigger. Anyway, thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
and I look forward to coming to your Arbor Day celebration in a month, too. So thank you again, Mayor DePoto, for participating in this long-standing tradition. We have one more proclamation to read recognizing Earth Day, and then we'll hear from Lindsay Fields to learn more about how we're honoring Arbor Day and Earth Day here in our community.
Whereas Earth Day was created 53 years ago, recognizing the importance for everyone to protect the planet on which we live. And
Whereas all life forms on Earth have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment, and whereas the global community now faces extraordinary challenges such as environmental degradation, global health issues, climate change, food and water shortages, and
Whereas all of us have an obligation to preserve the Earth's beauty as well as its resources, this obligation extends not only to today's generation, but also to the future generations who will inherit our planet from us. And whereas Lacey exemplifies the ethos of Earth Day by its continued commitment to conserving water and energy, reducing carbon emissions and waste, and maintaining its Tree City USA designation, and
Whereas, as we proclaim Earth Day, we recognize our obligation to live up to the significance of environmental stewardship every day. And
Now, therefore, I, Andy Ryder, Mayor of the City of Lacey, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, as Earth Day in the City of Lacey. And I encourage all community members to be aware of their impacts on our environment and to participate in stewardship opportunities to preserve local resources. And Lindsay, will you please come up and accept this proclamation? There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No.
There's- go.
And I think there might be a video. First, it's our first, I think, of 5 videos on our urban forestry. Yeah. Or not? No, it's a
just tell some jokes while we wait.
very bad. I have some dad jokes, but.
The forest, the trees, the natural beauty that surrounds us. For many of us here in Lacey, this is why we feel so lucky to call this place home.
Hi, I'm Riley Starr, contract urban forester and resident of the city of Lacey. Our urban forest provides us all with a beautiful natural backdrop for our everyday lives. It also provides us with cleaner air, habitat for wildlife, summer shade, and reduced stormwater runoff. Conserving, protecting, and growing our urban forest benefits everyone in our city. In this short 5-part series, we'll go over some of the ways city policies help ensure the continued growth of Lacey's urban forest so that our trees can continue to benefit our city for generations to come.
Like most cities in the South Sound, Lacey was built in a mostly forested environment with scattered prairies. Native stands of Douglas fir, red cedar, alder, maple, and oak flourished in our gravelly soils. As our city grew, stands of native trees were converted into farms and industrial timberlands. These cultivated lands were eventually displaced by residential and commercial developments. Streets and parking lots covered much of the land. The need to conserve natural stands of trees and replant our city became apparent. So, in 1991, the City of Lacey adopted a tree protection ordinance. Among other policies, the city prioritized the retention of trees in developments and required most properties to retain or replant a minimum number of trees so that the overall tree canopy would not decline. The City of Lacey also began to require that street trees be planted to reduce stormwater runoff control air pollution, and improve the aesthetics of our built environment. These efforts, combined with the Tree Committee, program funding, and an Arbor Day celebration, allowed the City of Lacey in 1991 to participate in the Tree City USA program from the Arbor Day Foundation. The city's urban forestry plan has evolved since 1991. A key component of this plan is a partnership with tree protection professionals, such as myself, to help facilitate the tree protection ordinance and allow for both trees and people to flourish in our city. Please join me as we continue to discuss urban forestry in Lacey and how it can enhance the quality of life for everyone in our city.
Yeah, I would like to claim credit for that, but I had 0 hand in it. So, yeah. So Arbor Day 2023. I think this. Yep. So since the early 1900s, like the council mentioned, the city of Lacey has been designated as a tree city by the Arbor Day Foundation. The city has invested more than $7.5 million in its tree planting and care, and we have given away more than 34,000 tree seedlings, which is pretty phenomenal. This year alone, I think we gave out about 500. We ended up getting like 1,000 trees, and so we're hoping to donate those to an organization as well, like Capital Land Trust or someone who's doing restoration work in the area. So this year I made the decision to purchase native plants as well. So we had two like true tree species, the red, or the, where is it at? The black cottonwood and the Pacific crabapple. I did make sure to only give the cottonwoods to folks who had the property for it, so you don't have to worry about taking those out later. But and then we had some shrub species as well, like the red osier dogwood, the Mackenzie willow, the hooker willow, and the red elderberry crowns. It was a pretty big hit, so we were super excited. It did happen on April 1st, so I feel like I can say April Fool's Day because it's already happened. But moving on to Earth Day. So this is actually an event coming up on the 22nd. We do it in partnership with the Park Foundation, Thurston County Park Foundation. Olympia participates, Thurston County participates, Lacey participates, and Tumwater. It's a volunteer event, and it's also a student challenge, so it's a really good way to get kids out to their parks. The school in each jurisdiction that has the most students gets $500 from their local Lions Club. And so last year we had about 50 people show up to the event, which is typically a smaller event than our MLK Day planting, but I've already had a lot of interest, and so I'm thinking there's going to be a lot more volunteers this year, so it's going to be a lot bigger event. But the first Earth Day was celebrated in 1970. Since 1970, over 1 billion individuals have mobilized for action every Earth Day. And so last year, Earth Day was celebrated with 43 volunteers pulling ivy at Wonderwood Park in Lacey. And around 50 bags of invasive species were removed from the park, which is a lot of work for 40 folks to be doing. And we anticipate doing that much again. And I will just say, Earth Day was like the one thing when I was a kid that got me really into environmental work as well. So it's always just a really fun day for me as well. And I think that's it for my presentation. Oh, nope. The annual Park Foundation, the event, it's Saturday, April 22nd, 9 a.m. to noon at Wonderwood Park. Would love to have council out if you can make it. Pull some ivy. I will have gloves, or you can bring your own gloves. And it's a good way. We'll also be planting last year we planted a red cedar tree at Wonderwood Park, and this year we're going to be planting an Oregon grape, a tall Oregon grape. So not like a huge tree, but it's always fun to get everyone involved in that as well. And like I said, the school with the most students participating gets $500 for their school from the local Lions Club. So a really good incentive to come out as well. And that's all I have. Thank you for your proclamations.
Thank you, Lindsay, and to everyone here for support of these efforts to make Lacey such a beautiful place to live. The very first Arbor Day we had in the city of Lacey, I went with my grandmother and got 2 seedlings because there was a big cedar tree. We had 2 large cedar trees in my yard, and one of the large cedar trees fell in a big storm, and so we planted 2 seedlings from our first Arbor Day. And if you look at those trees in my house now, it's just like, I guess it shows you how old I am. But I mean, they're really, really big. And then the second cedar that's in my house got damaged in the microburst, and when it got damaged, it started putting off seedlings all over my house. And I took 3 of those seedlings and I put them in a pot, and they grew, pretty decent. And I gave those those seedlings to Yelm for last year for your Arbor Day. So that's the story behind last year's. I wasn't there to have that story, but since you're here, I thought I'd tell you. So yeah, those 3 cedars from last year are from my yard too. So
That's amazing.
so thank you
Yeah.
everyone for being
A
here.
quick question for Lindsay or whoever. Do we know where the tree from Yelm is going to be planted? I think Mayor DePinto might be curious about that.
Chris just told me that your plants
Yeah.
were planted at our new dog park, our first dog park for the city of Yelm, right
Sweet.
at our entrance. I don't know where this one will be. He said it's Japanese maple.
Yeah, that's what I think it said.
It's a lilac. It's a lilac. tree. Yeah.
Lilac, yeah. Oh, those are beautiful trees.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
lilac trees are beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're one of the first to bloom in spring, so that's really
It's funny,
exciting.
I'm not sure where we've put all of our trees over the years. We've been exchanging trees for so many years, and they have to be all over Yelm and all over Lacey. So that's really cool. That
One of ours I just heard was, and I noticed some of them that don't really look like they belong there are standalone, are from Lacey and are Concord Park. It's this beautiful park that we have, one of our most prettiest parks. And,
Yeah.
So maybe that's a home for it, but we'll see.
yeah. Well, thanks you for being here, and thanks for this. Yeah. So yep.
Thank you.
So next up on our agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Ryder. And before I jump into what's on the city manager report, I just want to highlight that video that was just produced. This is something that's been a work in progress for quite some time. It's a way to kind of convey out to the community what the city has been doing and is doing regarding urban forestry practices. That is the first in a series of 5 videos that will be rolling out, and I want to just thank the Community Economic Development Department, the Public Affairs Department, and John Koch for working and putting this together, as well as Washington Forestry Consultants for providing the narration. But stay tuned. There will be a series of these videos coming out over the next month and a half, 2 months, and they'll be put it on our website as well as pushed out in our social media.
Great.
So with our city manager report, the first item we have up on the city manager report is the Spirit of Lacey Award. And the Spirit of Lacey Award is a program that was instituted back in 2012 by the City Council to recognize and honor individuals, organizations, or businesses that have truly conducted exceptional service or acts in the community. Some of the criteria for the Spirit of Lacey Award, the main criteria, 5 criteria that it has, is that it recognizes an eligible entity of exceptional contributions that promote the betterment of the community, or 2 actions that provide long-term value and benefit for future generations, acts of heroism or selflessness, exceptional environmental stewardship, and extraordinary generosity or investment in the community. So those are the 5 criteria that council establishes as what would be considered when considering a nomination for the Spirit of Lacey Award. And then it is stated that the Spirit of Lacey Award it's the highest award given by the city council, and it's considered to be meritorious, so it's not on an annual basis. The nomination process consists of a nomination being submitted to the city that is brought forward to the Community and Relations Council Committee, Community and Public Relations. That council committee will review the nomination, determine if it meets that criteria, and if so, forwards it on with a recommendation to the city council. And then the city council will have the opportunity to review the nomination, the recommendation from the council committee, and then ultimately make a decision on whether to award this award. So tonight we have a nomination before the city council. The nomination is for Ken Balsley. The nomination was submitted by Sarah Morris. We actually had 2 individuals that nominated Ken Balsley for this award. Sarah Morris, as well as Aaron Quinn Valcho, who's the curator of our Lacey Museum. In the packet, you'll see that the narrative of highlighting Ken's contributions to the community is there. Just as several highlights to point out and draw from the packet is recognize that Ken started work for the Lacey Leader. That was the newspaper at the time for the city of Lacey. Started in 1973, ultimately became the editor of that newspaper, and left the newspaper in 1979. He also is been a volunteer for various community organizations for the past 50 years. Some of those include forming the Lacey Civic Committee, which is a committee that helped establish the Civic Plaza over there off of Slater Kenny, as well as preserve the old City Hall and the current museum building. He also has been a member of the Lacey Chamber of Commerce for the last 50 years, also a member of the Lacey Rotary, which through those organizations contributed back to the community in various projects and efforts. He was a founding chair of the Lacey Historic Commission in 1979 and served on the Historic Commission for 14 and a half years. Also served on the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Board for 6.5 years, and was also a member of the Cultural Advisory Art Committee in 1980. He also was a member of the committee for City of Lacey's 20th and birthday, or 50th birthday celebrations. And as we know, Ken's always been a strong supporter of Lacey history, the museum itself, and has donated a lot of artifacts to the museum, including his Lacey Leader collection. And also, I know that as new people come to the community, or anybody who would ask, he would be willing to take them on a personal a tour of Lacey, highlighting the history as well as the broader Thurston County, and usually ends that tour with lunch. So again, this nomination form is before the City Council. It was reviewed by the Public Relations Committee this past Tuesday, the 4th. Upon that review, the committee has made a recommendation to move it forward to City Council, and I invite the two committee members that were at the committee meeting if they would like to add anything to the recommendation.
Well, I think you covered all of it, Rick, really well.
Given that,
I didn't get the lunch when I went on tour with Ken. I'm just saying, so he still owes me a lunch. But could not have been for a greater contributor and wonderful man.
is there a motion?
Move to approve nomination of Ken Balsley for the Spirit of Lacey Award.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Anyone? Lenny and then Carolyn?
Yeah, I would just say that I can't think of anyone more deserving. He was clearly incredibly dedicated to the city, loved the city of Lacey, and was probably one of its biggest cheerleaders we've ever had. I mean, I know when I was new to the community and met Ken, he took me on that tour, which we did end with lunch though, so sorry about that, Ed. But Ken would have said that if you hadn't been on his tour, you clearly weren't a leader in this community. I mean, that was Ken's one of Ken's comments, yeah. But anyway, yeah, nothing I could support more than this.
Ed, you didn't get the lunch? I got the lunch. Yeah.
He must not have liked me.
Carolyn?
Well, I echo Councilmember Greenstein's sentiments. I can't think of anybody more deserving than Ken. Had a lot of respect for Ken, and I still mourn his passing quite deeply. Thanks.
So it's been moved. One other thing I would like to say about Ken, well, there's so much to say about Ken Balsley. The one thing I do want to point out is, Ken Balsley, the journalist, compared to, Ken Balsley, the man of Lacey, Mr. Lacey himself. I really look at those things as two different things. If you look at everything he has accomplished as this, for the city of Lacey, everything he's been involved in from the early days of Lacey all the way up till his passing. He was Mr. Lacey. There's just no doubt about it. Ken Balsley as a journalist can be sometimes controversial, and I didn't necessarily agree with everything when it came to his journalism, but that does not, in my mind, take away anything from the man and what he did for this community. And I think it's important that that's acknowledged. He did, there's no one ever questioned Ken's heart when it comes to this city, ever. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve this nomination of Ken Balsley for the Spirit of Lacey Award. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Then it looks like that motion unanimously carries.
All right, next on the city manager report, we have a Public Works contract award. I'm going to send it over to Scott Egger, our Public Works Director, to present the contract.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I'm here to ask for authorization to award a project, but first I wanted to recognize Lindsay Fields. So sad news, good news story. Sad news, she's leaving her position in Public Works. She's been a water resource specialist for a number of years. She's done a phenomenal job, first focusing on water and wastewater, and then more recently stormwater. And as you can see, she has endless enthusiasm and energy for her job. So that was the sad news. The good news is that Department of Community and Economic Development hired her as the new sustainability coordinator. So she's going to continue to do phenomenal work for the city of Lacey.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So anyway, thank you, Lindsay, for all the great work you did. So anyway, for this project is a Golf Club Road Water and Wastewater Improvement Project. Staff is recommending award of contract PW 2020-40 to SCI Infrastructure LLC. The low bid was $6,562,091.35. The engineer's estimate was about $7.2 million. There were 8 bidders on this project. 2 bids were rejected for administrative reasons, 220 working days, and work is scheduled to begin this summer. On this project, it's both water and wastewater pipeline. You can see in terms of the project limits from the drawing there, it runs along Lacey Boulevard, starting at Sleater-Kinney, running east to the roundabout, and then it goes due south from the roundabout down to 26th Avenue. There's about 4,500 feet of waterline replacement. A lot of the pipe we're replacing has ended or reached the end of its useful life. We've had numerous water main breaks. It's 6-inch asbestos cement pipe. So we're upsizing it and replacing that. Then the other component is sewer line. We're going to be replacing about 6,200 feet of sewer main. And that's to mainly increase capacity at that area. We're doing some rerouting. The new line's going to tie into a new lift station 3, which is there on the corner of Golf Club and 26. So we will put that contract out probably later this fall or early this winter. So about the time this project's winding down, that project will be complete and the two can tie together. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Can I get a motion?
Move to award Lacey contract number PW 2020-40 to low bidder SCI Infrastructure LLC from CTAC in the amount of $6,562,091.35.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
You said 220 days worth of work?
Yes.
Will there be, how much interruption of service are we talking about, if any?
The main interruptions you'll see are more along the lines of transportation up and down the line. We're coordinating with Intercity Transit and also with North Thurston Public Schools Bus District. The majority of the time the work's going on, we'll try to keep at least one lane open, but there will definitely be times of full closures. And then also the roundabout, when we're working in there repaving, that repaving work will be done at night. And then with any water and sewer project, you have cutovers. So, there are intermittent outages, but we do notify customers ahead of time and coordinate that.
Thank you.
Some of the streets there are right turn only if you head east towards College Street. So in between Golf Club and College, there's some of those arterials that you can only make a right turn in.
Right.
So that's going to be challenging for
Right, that will all
traffic.
be closely coordinated. So,
Okay.
yeah, we don't want to landlock anybody.
Okay.
When potential vendors submit bids that have deficiencies, do they have an opportunity to attempt to cure those?
No.
So if you
And
don't get it right the
reason-
first time,
Yes, because they're sealed bids.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want, it would be unfair to allow everybody to open the bids, have
Right.
someone have an administrative error and allow them to correct that.
okay, it's a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Good to know.
Is there any other discussion? And it's been moved and seconded to award this Lacey contract to the low bidder. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Councilmember Stedman, I know you're with us remotely. Are you
Yes,
here?
Mayor.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you got a chance to vote. So,
Oh, yes, yep.
okay. Anyone opposed?
Appreciate it, Mayor.
Yep. Then that looks like that motion unanimously carries.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. And then our last item on the city manager report is a amendment to the existing joint use agreement with North Thurston Public Schools. The request is to authorize the interim city manager to sign this agreement, and I'll turn it over to Jen Burbidge, our Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation, to give the highlights.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. As Rick said, before you is a recommendation to authorize the interim city manager to sign the amended supplement to joint use agreement with North Thurston Public Schools, the amended agreement for pool operation with North Thurston Public Schools, and the amended pool use agreement with Tumwater School District. And as you know, the city has had a long-term joint use agreement with North Thurston Public Schools for the purpose of joint use of facilities for use by the public. This partnership has really served our community and city residents very well. As you know, it's our collective benefit to have this partnership to provide efficient delivery of much-needed value and highly regarded programs and facilities. We also know that aquatics and athletic programs teach skills and offer other social interaction opportunities, as well as fitness. And the aquatic piece specifically is important for safety and education. And of course, there's the fun aspect of having these opportunities as well. There's a few amended agreements that you'll see with tracked changes in your attachments, and I'll briefly walk you through those. The first is the supplemental agreement. It documents the pool agreement, cost-sharing arrangement, the use of athletic fields, and allows for the city to distribute its recreation guide, which is called the Playbook, to families directly through the schools. The proposed amendments will add methods of advertisement physically in the schools, such as posters, countertop or rack cards in the schools, and then also digitally through emails to the families that attend North Thurston Public Schools. So our staff have been able to put their heads together and determine more ways to really get information out to the public. And then it also clarifies the district's ability to partner and or participate in city events. And then the second attachment is the first amended agreement for pool operation. This change was instigated by North Thurston Public Schools. They were needing 30 more minutes at River Ridge High School, which would bump Tumwater School District's use 30 minutes later, which bumps the city's use 30 minutes later. And because of that change, the recommended dollar amount of the base amount per year for the rental of the pools is recommended to go from $105,000 to $100,000 per year, and that's starting in 2023. And you can see the schedule changes indicated in section 5 of that one. And then lastly, the first amended agreement for pool use. As I just mentioned, the Tumwater School District use is affected by 30 minutes, and so their dollar amount doesn't change. That would remain at $16,290 a year. That's paid to the city. And really the main change in this one is, like I said, that scheduled time. So instead of their use being from 4:30 to 6:30, it's 5 to 7. Amount remains the same. And just in closing, I just want to publicly thank our partners at North Thurston Public Schools for working through these things with us, and our staff meets monthly with theirs, and we have a great working relationship. And with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Can I get a motion, please?
I would move that we authorize the interim city manager to sign the amended supplement to joint use agreement with North Thurston Public Schools, the amended agreement for pool operations with North Thurston Public Schools, and the amended pool use agreement with TSD.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
You saved us money again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? Then it's been moved and seconded to authorize the interim city manager to sign these amended agreements. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Then that motion unanimously is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that everything?
That completes the city manager's report tonight.
Great. Then on to our standing general committees. And first up is the Finance Committee, which did meet on March 28th. And we spent the entire meeting talking about our 2023 budget amendments. And as we know, as soon as we pass the budget, it seems like almost immediately we have to amend the budget. And what we've, it's been several years back, we'd wait all the way till, September to do that, even though we are making sometimes major budget amendments, early out throughout the year. And so as practice, these budget amendments come to the Finance Committee before that. Any major big amendments come to the Finance Committee before that. And we have several larger ones, and they're in the following categories that's listed in your report. But I'm going to turn it over to Troy to talk about some of the larger budget amendments that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. I'm having little technical difficulties with the microphone. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity to provide some information on some of the more significant amendments. I think there's a lot of things to celebrate within these amendments. So again, thank you for the opportunity. The first is a $500,000 improvement at the Veteran Services Hub. This will, it's really an accessibility project, so there's going to be a new elevator, 88 doors, and there'll be some design work on the parking lot. And this is entirely funded by a HUD grant, Housing and Urban Development Grant, so we're very thankful to have been awarded that. In terms of transportation, we have about a $1.2 million amendment that's being proposed. This will help pay for frontage improvements in front of Wantress Park. We do have an opportunity to partner with a developer that will provide that much-needed pedestrian connection between in front of the park out to, I believe that's 22nd, that will help us in terms of transportation. We do have about $2 million in amendment related to the police station. This shouldn't be any surprise to the community or to the council. This is really just to continue the land acquisition from St. Martin's University to provide the footprint for the building. I will say there was a bit of confusion in terms of the committee, and I'll admit staff as well, in terms of when that transaction was actually going to occur. So the council did approve an MOU that provided the cost of the property, but didn't actually trigger the sale. And that sale will happen either at the end of this year or early 2024, once we get the 60% design, which will actually inform the size of the footprint and therefore how much property we actually need. So the MOU, as a reminder, was approved with an amount of $4,040,000. It will be probably something less than that, just depending on what the size of the footprint of that actual project will be. Within the RAC, we really wanted the council to get a kind of an early heads up on the parking lot project. There is $2.3 million currently in the budget. The 90% design for the RAC parking lot project is about $2.8 million. So there may be a need for an amendment for that. We will have to identify funding, but really we'll wait and see after bids are received, and we'll know the final costs for that. I think that kind of summarizes the major projects. There are a number of other amendments, as the mayor said. Basically, the minute we adopt, we already have amendments, but I think those kind of cover the more significant ones, and certainly ones that the, I think, community would be most interested in.
Great. Thank you so much. And with that, we've reached the end of our amended agenda. The council will now meet in executive session to evaluate the qualifications of the city manager applicants as allowed by RCW 42-30-1-10-1G. As it was pointed out in our special meeting on Monday, we are down to 3 applicants that are still within our pool. This council hasn't discussed who those 3 applicants are, but we will go into executive session right now to discuss those qualifications. We will adjourn right now. We'll adjourn to executive session, give like a 5-minute break, so that will be 6:45 is when we'll adjourn into actual executive session. I'm going to put like 20 minutes on the clock. So that would be 10 after 7 is when we would adjourn from the executive, but, well, it's 45, oh yeah, 5 after. That's my great math going there. It'll be 5 after that we would come back into order and regular business order at that time. So right now we're going to adjourn to executive session. Well, I am back from executive session, but the council is going to extend this executive session for another 15 minutes. So that's until 7:20. Right? Is my math right? You got it. So we're back from our executive session. No decisions were made in our executive session. In other business, with a city manager interview schedule, what this council is assigned to do is to do a deeper dive into this process before we make a decision. We think that can take about a couple weeks for that deeper dive of this process. And with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. So without objection, I'll call this meeting adjourned.